to take away from Oregon and Indiana. Obviously, two sides of the aisle to this conversation. We want to talk about BTA, right? That's the big saying nowadays. That's exactly what it was. Let's face it, man. Oregon was at no point were they ever in that game. Maybe in the first quarter, but outside of that, I mean, Indiana just ran them off the
First
field. I
play
mean,
was a pick six.
they exposed that offense. Dante Moore looked terrible. I mean, the turnovers, Oregon's offensive line just simply got exposed. It was bad. And I forgot to do the math before the show today, but I'm almost curious. Combined between Ohio State, maybe you can do some quick math here, Ryan. But between Ohio State last year and Oregon this year, how many combined points they gave up in those two playoff games is really starting to make people kind of look at Oregon and go, is this program starting to become the next, Notre Dame, if you will? Now, I realize Notre Dame made it to a championship last year, but the one knock on Notre Dame is they are the most routinely overrated football program in the country ever since they won their last national championship, back in, I don't even remember where it was. It was years and years and years ago. What is it?
97 points. 56 to Indiana,
Ooh.
41 to Ohio State.
Oh, so 97 against two
Damn
Big
near
Ten
50 points a
opponents.
game.
Oh man, Dan Lanning. So let's talk about it a little bit. Obviously, they got straight up exposed. They had a cupcake schedule. They didn't win a Big Ten championship. They have the Oregon name, so obviously you know that they're already going to be in the running. There are just certain brands in college football that if you have that name, whether you're in Oregon, whether you're Bama, whether you're Michigan, whether you're Ohio State, like these are just certain programs that are going to get the benefit of the doubt regardless of the cupcake schedule they played, including OSU. They play two teams with a pulse and they lose both games. All right. But that's a separate conversation. And no, I wouldn't consider Michigan a team with a pulse, not this year. But, anyways, looking at this game, the comparison that I continue to think of, and it's funny because coming into the show, you actually laughed about it. You thought that I was taking the idea from you. Yeah. I was actually thinking about this all weekend. I didn't post a video. You posted a video. But comparing someone like Dan Lanning to James Franklin, which I think is a very accurate description. And here's why. James Franklin had a lot of success his first couple of seasons. Like, won a Big Ten championship, put that team on the map. But beyond that point, there was a reputation that always followed James Franklin, and it was Big Game James. We all knew him as Big Game James because he would find a way to make it to that game that he needed to win. Well, whether that be a Michigan game, whether that be against Ohio State, whoever, that a playoff game, obviously last year, when he gets to that game, James Franklin chokes. And he has choked, and he made a career out of choking. Now, is James Franklin a bad coach? Absolutely not. James Franklin was great. He won a lot of football games.
And what he took over, too. What he took over at Penn State was really impressive after the whole Paterno everything.
Yep. And so there's a lot to love about what James Franklin did. But at a certain point, Penn State in their front office had to sit down, look at each other, and go, hey, listen, we're a big brand. James Franklin has moved the goalposts. Okay, we're no longer in the post-Paterno era. We're no longer trying to build this into something that is just respectable anymore.
Again, Penn State's overrated too. 87 was their last natty.
No, yeah. I mean, Michigan's last natty was in 97 before they won it in 23. So, I mean, anyways, but moving on. He moved the goalposts, but now is he our guy to get us over the hump? And every single year, the answer was no. James Franklin could beat everybody else, but he couldn't beat the team that he absolutely needed to beat. And so at a certain point, that whole conversation of, well, could we do any better than him? You know, who else out there is going to be able to do what James Franklin does? At a certain point, that conversation stops. That's what Harbaugh, you're right. It took him a decade, man, to win, damn near a decade to win a national championship. And we held on to him because we realized the guy still wins a lot of games. I mean, 2016, that close to beating Ohio
JT
State
was
and
short.
going to a Big Ten championship and winning a national championship. I agree. I thought he was short too. But there were many a years, but he finally got it done. But when I look at James Franklin, again, it was one of those things like, should you fire him? Because can you do better than where you are right now? Because he routinely gets you in the spot to win it, but he doesn't win it. We need to start having a serious conversation about Dan Lanning, because between Ohio State last year, again, they were not competitive. They were not competitive in that football game. They got gashed from the very beginning to the very end. Against Indiana, they were not competitive. They got gashed until the very end. Speaking of Penn State, a James Franklin-less Penn State actually put up a better fight against Indiana in the regular season than what Oregon did in the playoffs.
Came down to the end.
And I'm not buying all this stuff from Dan Lanning. Oh, hey, we need to cut down on the amount of time off, and we need to. Those are excuses. You got dog walked for a second year in a row. You got smacked around on the national stage, and you're going to go back into the offseason, and come next year, it's going to be the same thing. Oregon's in the running to go win a national championship, and it's probably going to end the same exact way. I understand Dan Lanning's a really good coach. I get it. But is it time for Oregon to start thinking about moving on from Dan Lanning? Is it time for Oregon to say, hey, Dan got us to this point. You know, he took over a Mario Cristobal team, which, by the way, Mario Cristobal was good at Oregon. He